Hey y'all, Doug here. Welcome back to a special, long-awaited bonus episode of Krewe Japan. We are hard at work stockpiling interviews and editing audio for Season 7, but in the meantime, we got a great episode to share. Last season, almost a year ago to the day, in fact, we released our Expo 2025 deep dive with Sachiko Yoshimura, Director General Extraordinary of Public Relations and Promotion Bureau of the Japan Association for the 2025 World Exposition. That honestly might be my favorite job title of all time. In that episode, we previewed what to expect with the Expo, its purpose, and what it meant for Japan on the world stage. Since the episode's release, the Expo has come and gone. Myaku is living his best life as a pop culture icon, and Osaka has mostly settled back into everyday life. While the Expo was over, the idea of an episode about boots on the ground during the Expo was something Jen and I really were interested in covering and pursuing, but we just didn't have a direction. Or at least, at that point, we didn't have a direction. Fast forward to October 2025. Fresh off a return from our unexpectedly long summer break, I got a message from Lea Disimone on LinkedIn, who found our previous episode about the Expo and pitched the idea about the Youth Ambassador experience. The fit was perfect with what exactly we were already thinking, and the cherry on top was the fact that both she and fellow participant Bridget McCarthy had New Orleans ties, so this one was just meant to be. In this bonus episode, we sit down with both Lea and Bridget, talking with them about what led them to joining the Youth Ambassador program, what a typical day in the life looked like for someone representing their country and working in the US Pavilion at the Expo, the role they played in making Expo 2025 a success, and how this experience gave them invaluable professional experiences and lifelong memories. It's a great conversation and a perfect one-year bookend to where this particular Expo journey started. So let's go. We started our season out, I think it was episode 2. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was episode 2.
Yes, it was episode 2, just because of the timing.
Yeah, it was like right at the beginning. We were kicking off the season, right around the start of the Expo in Osaka. And we had a couple folks from the actual Expo come on and talk about what was going to be going on, kind of do a little bit of hype train for the Expo. But long story short, someone on this episode found our posts via LinkedIn, reached out. And turns out we had met a couple United States youth ambassadors who were working at the Expo throughout the last 6 months, right? We'll get into that in a little bit. But we have Lea Disimone and Bridget McCarthy, who are both joining us today, who are, again, youth ambassadors. So Bridget and Lea, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
I'm going to give each you kind of a short moment to introduce yourself. And I obviously probably didn't do a good enough job. So I want you to give us a...
Ooh, can I do my famous college introduce yourself kind of situation?
Yes, go for it.
College girls. So I want, obviously, your name, where you went to school, and an interesting fact about yourself.
There you go.
Sounds great.
Who's first?
Bridget.
Oh, okay. I'll start. Hello, everyone. I'm Bridget McCarthy. I graduated from Kenyon College in 2023 with a bachelor's in Japanese and studio art. And I'm originally from Massachusetts. I do have ties to New Orleans. My mom grew up here, and now my parents live in New Orleans again. And an interesting fact about me is that I used to be a beekeeper. When I was at college, I was president of the beekeeping club, and that was really fun. I do miss it a lot now that I live in the big city of Chicago, but thanks for having us on today.
Yeah.
Awesome. My name is Lea. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in International Trade and Finance from LSU. I'm a New Orleans native, so I did the in-state college thing with the TOPS tuition and all that. I guess a fun fact about me, I feel like that's hard to pin down. If we're staying with the animal thing, I foster rabbits. Rabbits that are abandoned, I like to take them in and find them good homes and, fix them all up. So, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was
Awesome.
a very happy and positive way to start this episode.
Hold on, Bridget. When you were beekeeping, did you
God.
collect honey and everything too? Or are you doing the honey thing? Or was it just like keeping the bees happy?
So when I started, the hives were in their first year, and generally you can't collect honey for the first year. So Maybe I'm a bad beekeeper for saying this. Our bees didn't really make it through the winter the first year, so we had to start from scratch the following year, which was my senior year. So I never got to see the honey, but I was told that the people who carried on the club got honey the next year. So I take solace in that fact that eventually there was honey to be had.
You trained them up. You helped them.
Right.
You led them to success, right? You built the foundation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough about animals. I'm kidding. We love animals here. I have too many. Oh, I only have two, but it feels like two is too many sometimes. One being a puppy, which is sometimes bit off more than you can chew. But anyway, animals talk aside. We want to hear more about your youth ambassador experience with the Expo. Can you tell us both how you heard about the program, the youth ambassador program, and why you decided to apply?
Yeah, actually, so I was interning at the US Japan Council at the time, and I was kind of trying to look for my next role. And I didn't know if I want to do something full time or find another type of program thing. But I was scrolling LinkedIn, and US Japan Council had a post with literally one link and like barely any information, and it had no reposts and no likes or anything. And it was to the Youth Ambassador program. So I clicked on it. And the headline was like, "Have you heard of a World's Fair?" and all this stuff. And I actually have always wanted to go to the World's Fair. When the World's Fair was in New Orleans in 1984, I wasn't born yet, but my grandma and grandpa had a season pass and they would go all the time. So they have like pictures and books and things about the expo. So I kind of grew up like knowing about it. And I was like, oh, like I know about this. And it's in Japan, which I have a connection to, like learning the language. And obviously I was working at USJC at the time. So, yeah, it just seemed like right up my alley. I love international things and East Asia, and I've always wanted to go to the expo. And they said they were looking for someone from each state. And I felt like Louisiana usually doesn't have any representation anyway at these types of things. So I was like, perfect, I'm applying.
Little do they know they got double the connection with you two, right? Just slightly, a little off here and there, but yeah.
Definitely.
So I was working on the JET program at the time. I taught in Hokkaido for a year and a half. And towards the end of my second year, I was looking for new roles. I wanted to stay in Japan, and I've always been interested in international things like Lea. And some of my friends who were doing JET with me forwarded me the link to this role. I think they had just extended the application because they had so few applicants in the beginning. So the application was extended for another week. I basically had like a week to get everything together, all of my application materials, but I made it happen. I figured Massachusetts would probably have pretty good representation. I was a little surprised when we actually ended up there and it was just me and one of our other friends and one of our dear leaders in guest services. But it was something that I felt like I had heard of the World's Fair. I had the general idea of it. I didn't realize that it was still going on, really. And I didn't know it had been rebranded as just like Expo. I know a lot of people on the program had connections to Dubai. I personally didn't know that it had happened in Dubai in 2021. So it was kind of just like a new ball game for me.
To add on to that, what Bridget was saying about how they didn't have that many applicants at first, the marketing for the program was bare bones, little to none. Like I said, it was for me, I just found one link through a Japan related society. But a lot of people had no idea that the Youth Ambassador program was happening. They didn't even know what it was, which I guess worked out in some people's favor because less applicants makes it less competitive. It still ended up being very competitive and there was a lot of applicants, but there wasn't like 15,000 or anything. But yeah, most people hadn't heard of it before and they realized a little too late that they didn't market it maybe as well as they should have. But yeah, they ended up ramping up the marketing in like the last month that the application was open.
I was about to say, I heard about it, I think through LinkedIn too. And it was just also very much through like Japan Society stuff, not necessarily New Orleans Japan Society advertising it, but the national organization, as well as some other, like I think JET Alumni Association advertised it a little bit in a couple of other places. But you are right though about Louisiana being underserved in terms of like that kind of thing. That's one of the things our Japan Society president always mentions with Japan Society and us doing programming is that if we want to do something funding wise, we can usually get grants because we are an underserved area. So Louisiana doesn't get the greatest representation at these type of things. So we got to go and do it.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And speaking of the application process, what was it like for y'all? What did you have to submit? What were the qualifications they were asking for? Because, I mean, Leah, the way you were talking about it was kind of like it didn't sound like they had a good grasp of like advertising, but like, did they at least have a good grasp of what they wanted to see from you?
I would say so. It was a pretty standard application process for the most part. It was very much like submit your resume, and you had to have a couple of professional references or academic references as well. I feel like the biggest thing that set it apart from other applications I had done previously was there was a video introduction thing. It had to be like a minute and a half to 2 minutes long, and you had to answer some prompts that they gave you, but also, show your personality and your energy and your language skills, which weren't necessarily a requirement, but having Japanese or other East Asian language skills were highly recommended and encouraged. So, yeah, I feel like that the video component is what made it a little different, but I enjoyed doing it. It's fun.
It sounds kind of like the Survivor application. Like you ever watch Survivor?
Yeah.
Like they say, like send in like a video of you, why you should be on Survivor, what makes you the. It sounds like that. I've never actually had to apply for anything where it required a video, so that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that was part of the application process.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely had that personality component of why you should pick me for this, or like kind of why you were interested in doing the expo, or why you would be a good representative of the US as well. So yeah, Bridget, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, I think I remember from the video portion, we were supposed to talk about our hometowns and like pitch the idea of tourism to our hometowns to this hypothetical audience. And I thought that was really fun. I really liked talking about like the small town where I grew up. Like Leah said, there was the desire for people to have like international experience, customer service experience, or like experience in Japan and speaking Japanese. But I do think the most important part was definitely personality. If you're going to be the face of the U.S. all day for 6 months on end, they definitely prioritize people who are like upbeat and outgoing. And Japanese, I think, was probably like my strongest trait as a candidate. I think not everyone understood Japanese going in, but like having a few people who could be there to like assist the people who had no Japanese skills was, I think, something they were looking for in the beginning.
So it's kind of, I mean, for you, I mean, as a JET participant, that's kind of like similar to the JET. They kind of say you should have all this stuff, but part of their like requirements for the role is like being energetic and outgoing, and like they kind of emphasize that because you need to be that kind of thing because you are a cultural ambassador in the classroom and in your community. So it's similar in that regard too, right? You kind of have to emphasize that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of my experience as a youth ambassador felt very similar to Jet, just having to like introduce people who maybe had never been exposed to American culture before to America and be friendly, outgoing, use English, meet people where they're at with their English and things like that. Yeah. But I think my Jet time really came in handy with this. And there were a bunch of other Jets who ended up doing this too. So I was not the only person.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Was it the US Japan Council that was hiring y'all, or was it an outside source?
No, it was Sister Cities International.
Sister Cities International that was hiring. Okay. That
Yes.
explains. Thank you. I wanted to know that.
Apparently for the Youth Ambassador program, there's like a lottery system, or like those kinds of nonprofit organizations kind of bid to see who's going to take on the youth ambassadors. So in Dubai, I think they had Global Ties as their practitioners, and I think it changes every cycle. So Sister Cities won the bid for our management program.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Nice.
So similar to Jet, they cover your housing, they cover your travel, cover compensation. How did they go about providing housing and travel? Like, was it fully comped? Was the compensation really good? Or it was okay? Like, what was your setup when they brought you over there?
Yeah, because like for Jet, I know they assist you with at least finding housing. I know they assist you with like certain things like setting up accounts, setting up cell phone. How is y'all's situation with the youth ambassador program?
Yeah, so Sister Cities managed pretty much every aspect of our day-to-day lives. They, if you're familiar with Jet, kind of functioned as like our supervisors in Japan. Yeah, our housing was covered by the program, and our travel to orientation in Texas, which is where we first met, and then subsequent travel to and from Japan after Expo ended was covered. And we got a stipend for living expenses, like just various day-to-day, like food, transportation, phone bill, things like that. And it was funded by Department of State funding. I think they did a good job of helping people who had never lived in Japan before just like navigate setting up life there, like setting up your phone, doctor's appointments, whatever. So, yeah, we had a pretty good amount of support when we were settling in.
That's great. So, and you were in Japan. So they flew you from Japan to Texas and then back to Japan?
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy, like, 36 hours. I was so jet lagged. I went from, Hokkaido to Texas and basically immediately back to Japan.
Yeah, wow, that's insane.
I will say though, the stipend was paid in USD, which stretches a long way in Japan.
Yes.
So even though technically we were just being paid for things like Bridget said, like food, transportation, maybe a little bit of other miscellaneous costs that could arise, like the phone bill and stuff, because it was in USD, I feel like a lot of people ended up making money. I ended up saving money from Expo. Like I made a little bit of money, and I felt very comfortable going out to eat and traveling and things like that with just the stipend they gave us and no other income.
For the housing, was it communal housing where you shared with other people, or did you each have your own little like kind of a like tiny studio apartment or dorm? I don't know.
So they ended up renting out this apartment style hotel for the entire duration of Expo. So all the youth ambassadors lived together. We had usually 2 roommates, so 3 people total to each apartment. It was very fun. It felt like college again.
There was a roommate matching system at the very beginning. So, it was like Bridget said, like college. And there were 2 Western rooms, and then there was a tatami room. I was one of the people that got the tatami room. Bridget, I don't know if you did. Did you have
I did
tatami?
not. I had the big Western style room. I was pretty spoiled, but the tatami room was really nice.
The tatami room was nice. It had the sliding doors and everything. The kitchen was pretty Japanese. Like they had the fish oven drawer. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Mhm.
And, they had like the sunroom where you'd hang your clothes to dry, and the tatami room opened up right onto the sunroom. So I enjoyed staying in the tatami room a lot.
Did each room have an AC? A
Yes.
wall
Yeah.
unit? Okay.
Thank
I was about to say,
goodness.
it was the
That's
summer.
good.
It was the
That's
summer
good.
when you were there. So, I mean, if you didn't, oh man, whoever had the AC room was probably the best luck.
The living room also had AC unit as well. So
Oh,
all
great.
3 rooms and the entire unit itself. It was pretty good.
Awesome.
And what part of Osaka did they have y'all staying in? Like what ward?
We had a really great location, I think, even among like the people working at Expo. We were in Minato-ku, so we were
that
like
is good.
we were like 2 stops away on the subway on the Chuo line. It was awesome. I cannot complain.
We were in a town called Osaka, and it's pretty close to Universal Studios Japan. Actually,
Mhm.
it wasn't just the Americans in the complex. It was called Universal Bay Condominium was where we stayed. We also had the Canadian Pavilion employees and the Monegasque Pavilion employees as well. So there were a lot of people in our complex, but yeah, there were like I remember talking to some people from the Polish pavilion, and they were placed downtown, like in kind of like the Dotonbori area. And so
Wow.
which was very far to get to work, which I'm sure for nightlife, on Saturdays and Fridays and Saturdays, that was a great place to be. But as far as commuting to work, it had to have been a headache.
Yeah, I was about to say baller, but then yeah, not so great if you
Well,
need to get
that and
the
then like the noise pollution is probably awful in that area.
Yeah.
yeah.
Another aspect of this I kind of wanted to discuss is like the expectations. What were your expectations for like working the expo versus the reality of it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I really had very little idea of what to expect, both from Expo and from the job in particular. Like, the job listing was pretty vague. They wanted people who cared about Japan and diplomacy and had customer service experience, which made me think we would be doing like a lot of front facing, like tour guiding things, but the like actual on the ground daily stuff was pretty much a mystery to all of us until we like showed up on site.
Yeah, I kind of thought that it was going to be like working at a museum, it was kind of gonna kind of be the museum tour guide, but our pavilion theme wasn't very museum-esque at all. I knew it was going to be customer servicey in nature, but I didn't know exactly what the day-to-days would be like. But I feel like a lot of when you do a big world event is learning as you go for everybody, because you can plan as much as you want, but you don't know necessarily how the vibe is going to be. It's like any place that just opens for the first time. So I feel like kind of gathering that atmosphere was a learning process, and everyone kind of added to that. But yeah, it was customer servicey in nature, but it exceeded my expectations in some ways in that aspect, and then kind of surprised me in other ways since we were learning as we worked the job.
And I'll kind of piggyback on that question. Y'all kept on using the word day to day. So now I want to know, I'm curious, what was like the daily life of a youth ambassador? What were your main responsibilities? And what was your favorite part about working the expo?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I can walk you through an AM shift, Leah, if you want to take a PM shift.
I'll take a PM
Let's
shift.
do it.
full day.
AM, PM.
All right, so you wake up at probably around 6 a.m. You stop at the Family Mart in Chico, always.
Shout out to the Family Mart.
Family Mart, yes, my Family Mart girlies. Love
we became very good friends with the people who ran the Family Mart closest to our apartment. We miss them very much. Shout out to the Tashiros. Thank you for everything. So you'd go in the morning, and the first thing you do is briefing, where you get kind of a rundown of what's going to happen that day, any VIP guests that we would be getting, if there was a particular thing going on at Expo that day that we should have been aware of. Like usually if there was like a major holiday going on or something, we'd be informed to be aware of the possibility that things would get crowded, things like that. And yeah, I mean, youth ambassadors ran basically most of the things on the ground day to day for the guest experience. To give you a little bit of an idea of what the pavilion was about, it was an exhibit that covered American innovation and introduced people through song and our mascot Spark to various things the US is working on, a lot of space exploration, collaborations between NASA and JAXA. We guided tours. There was a part of the exhibit where you spoke on stage called Innovation. I can still recite the speech from heart, I think.
Me too.
We managed the queue. We answered questions outside the pavilion. And at some points early on, we provided translation and interpretation for the various stage performances that we had. I think that ended up kind of going away. We just let the performers do what they did without any translation. Yeah, so that's kind of a usual day shift.
For a night shift, so you'd have to be there by around 2:15-ish for the briefing. So while the AM shift was still on their duty, we would have the briefing so we could relieve them on time. So before that, once again, stop at Family Mart, get your snack before you go. And we would have the briefing, grab our radios. We communicated on radios the whole time. So, and it wasn't just us. So anyone who was in upper management as well kept radios on hand. And we could switch channels to communicate with those. So maybe like protocol or venue management, etc. We were always in pretty clear communication with each other. So yeah, you'd sign up for your shift on a whiteboard, and Bridget kind of outlined what the pavilion was about, and you could sign up for what position you wanted based on kind of your interest, or obviously it was a first come first served basis. So some people would get there really early to sign up for innovation because they really wanted to speak and do crowd work. And like one of our fellow ambassadors liked to do like a stand-up routine and tell jokes in Japanese and things like that to kind of get the crowd hyped. Some people really liked working the front of pavilion and doing the line management. Yes, we got a front of Pav warrior right here. Yeah, because you used a lot of Japanese skills. I liked working in front of Pav because I feel like that really helped me speak Japanese, and also Keigo because that's what we were expected to use with our guests. And then some people like doing tour guide or taking a more chill position, just like guarding the lunar sample and something like that. So you'd sign up for your position, relieve the day shift. But I think what was really cool about the night shift is obviously you were there when the expo closed for the day. So you'd have to tell people, you know, the line's closed and all this stuff, but you'd still have a few guests coming in. At the very end of the night shift and for the last couple tours, a lot of the ambassadors would try to get people hyped still. So we'd play some music on the speakers, or if we didn't have a performance on our stage going on. But what we'd like to do is, as they're coming out of the exit, we'd stand in a line surrounding them, and we'd like put our hands down and go like, woo. And then they'd like come out and like get really excited. And we definitely had some of the most energy compared to other pavilions, I feel like. A lot of people came to visit our pavilion just because they wanted to interact with the youth ambassadors and kind of get that energy experience and interaction. We love to give high fives to kids and talk to people and get them excited, jump around. It was kind of like we tried to make the end of the night shift like a party almost. And yeah, we'd probably get home around like 9:45 if we were really quick to get home on the train, if the station wasn't crowded and it was rush hour, or like 10:30 about, and you'd wake up and do it all again.
2 follow-up questions. Well, actually, maybe 3. 1, who gave you your, like, the morning, like, when they had your meetings to kind of, like, get you ready for the day? Was it Sister City International, or was it, like, the pavilion, like, they have, like, a pavilion leader or something that was kind of in charge?
Yeah, so there were actually 2 kind of entities in charge of everything. Sister Cities International was in charge of just youth ambassador management regarding like housing and stuff like that. But technically our on-shift bosses was this mega event management company called Trivandi. So they do all kinds of events. They've done like Formula One races, they've done Olympics and things like that. So this is kind of their wheelhouse, these types of global events. So they hired what was called guest service leads, and those were our direct bosses on shift. So they would give us the briefing and they would put us on our breaks and kind of switch people out as we go. So I feel like day-to-day work-wise, we were interacting with Trivandi, but more for our clerical type business, we were interacting more with sister cities.
Awesome. Question number 2. Did you get any like Japanese training leading up to it, maybe at the orientation, or did they kind of, like you said, Keigo was something, especially if you're front of pavilion, you were expected to maybe use it? Did you have to like study that, or do they expect that if you were working that area that you already knew that?
Since the positions were self-elected, I think the people who knew more Japanese kind of gravitated towards the ones where you would be using a lot of Japanese. There was a bit of training at the beginning, just general kind of set phrases for helping guide people through the pavilion. But in terms of like actual like sit down, learn the grammar of Japanese, I think it was very much like self-study. And something I was really impressed by at Expo was people who came in knowing 0 Japanese learned pretty quickly. They became really proficient at a basic level within a matter of a few weeks. It was really impressive to watch.
Awesome. All right. And 3rd follow-up question, and you may have mentioned this earlier, but what was your go-to snack and drink at Family Mart?
That is so hard. It changed every time for me. Let me think, Leah, if you have a go-to, please.
It changed sometimes for me, but I feel like if I had to think about it, first thing that comes to mind, either a spam musubi or a tamago sando. And I really like melon soda or like a tea. I'm big on the namacha green tea. I like that a lot. And always an ice cream. I'm always going to pick up an ice cream, probably a Parm or Pinot. So that's my go-to.
I appreciate that one. Yeah.
Did you buy enough time? You got your favorites picked out?
I think so. Okay. I mean, we were most of the time we were working there was summertime. So you always had to have like a Pocari Sweat or some electrolyte drink just to make sure you wouldn't pass out on shift or anything. My go-to was usually a tuna mayo onigiri and like some sort of sweet treat to help me like on my break, just make it through till the end of shift. I really liked, okay, this is kind of a deep cut, but like there was this protein bar I got really into when I was in Japan. It's the like wafer protein bar. It doesn't taste like a protein bar. They're so good. They taste like those like Keebler wafer things.
I got those in the morning a lot.
Those were clutch in the morning. I really loved them. They were vanilla and like matcha flavor.
What are they called?
Yeah, like in like fit,
right,
something
I'm gonna have to
like
look
that.
for this next time.
Yeah, I recommend.
I'm all about the Keebler sandwiches, cookie sandwiches, and also protein bars. So if it hits both, I'm covered. All right. Well, From like your perspective, how did Osaka as a city handle the crowds that were gathering? Like they obviously, you saw some news here and there. You saw people talking about it on Reddit. Hey, it was super crowded. The logistics were sometimes really good, but sometimes also there was some complaints. So how do you feel like crowds were handled by the city? And did you experience any kind of like travel challenges like that? Because internet, you only hear the negative. You never hear good stuff. So, I mean, you don't know. Maybe that could have just been one person's bad experience for as much as we know. So, on the ground, what was it really like?
I will say that in general, I think the city of Osaka did a good job with the crowds just in Osaka generally. Like I'm sure I had been to Osaka once before Expo and it was a big city. It was crowded, it was bustling, but I would say that felt pretty similar when I was living there for Expo. It was crowded and busy, but when I was downtown it was never like I like couldn't get on a train or anything. And I'd say they did a good job with the crowd control, like surrounding Yumeshima, the station where we were going to Expo, and like the frequency of the Chuo line, the singular train line to Expo was really good. It was departing like every 1 or 2 minutes or something. I will say, I think the cap on tickets, I believe, was around 250,000 per day. And I think that was probably too high for the venue. I remember towards the end of Expo, like it would be shoulder to shoulder, people just like waiting hours and hours. There were days where our queue would get to like 2.5, a 3 hour wait. And unfortunately, I think that was just like the nature of like having this many people and basically like having at the beginning, it seemed like unlimited tickets. Like people just didn't stop coming. And as the hype had ramped up, it was just more and more people coming every day. Combined with like the summer heat, it was just really kind of a tough combination. So I do understand where those complaints are coming from. I think like it was not like an easy experience for everyone.
Yeah, I just want to add that I feel like they did have good foresight on certain things, like building Yumeshima Station and really encouraging the public transit and trying to make transit to and from Expo easy. And obviously having like Expo be on its own island instead of being in the city or close to the city, so that could cause congestion. But I feel like they didn't ask enough what if questions. And there were little things that seemed like so separate from crowd management that actually contributed to the poor crowd system. So at the very beginning, they had this lottery system when buying tickets, which discouraged a lot of people from purchasing tickets. So in the first couple of months, ticket sales were way down from what their goal was. And there wasn't much marketing for Expo other than just Myaku Myaku, the mascot. And so people didn't really know what it was about. I remember like we had a task where we had to interview locals on what they thought about Expo and if they were going, and they were just kind of like, I don't know what that is. Like there's a weird looking mascot and I guess I'm going to go because I live in Osaka, but I don't know. And I feel like them changing halfway through the lottery ticket system to a regular just purchase online system paired with word of mouth coming in. So people telling other people to come to Expo. It's really awesome. I went. It made crowds at the very end of Expo skyrocket. So I guess people waited till the last minute, or they didn't hear about how cool it was till later, or they couldn't get a ticket till way later. And so what could have been crowds that were kind of spread out throughout the duration of the 6 months that really ramped up towards the end. And I guess people have that psychological tendency to wait till the last minute and think, and they're like, oh, well, it's about to end. I should just go. But that's something they should have considered as well. Like probably during the last couple months of Expo, it's going to ramp up in visitor numbers. So we should maybe do something about it. That and things like the ground was this white kind of concrete and there was not much shade. So during the hot summer months, which were also the busiest months of Expo, it really increased the heat and people didn't have shade or anything. So people were really prone to things like heat stroke or passing out and other things. So they could have done better there, but I do like the mentality that they had with some of the transit systems, and they had some like buses that would take you to and from Expo as well.
I will say with the transit, as I do think the emphasis on like mass transit was a good thing. If they had allowed just a free for all with cars and stuff, it would have been gridlock all the time. However, there was one fateful night that I believe made international headlines. The sole train line going in and out of Expo was the Chuo line. There was a night where the Chuo line shut down and 30,000 people were left stranded at Expo overnight. I was working that night. Luckily, we made it out on a taxi before they had announced that trains were shut down because it was just a mad dash for people getting taxis after that. And I have coworkers who ended up like being stranded until the morning and just like having to sleep at the pavilion overnight. So I think having alternative ways, like the buses were one thing, but I believe that was another reservation only thing. I think the reservation only nature of things and having to plan ahead so much left very little room for error when things actually did go wrong on the ground, like just in real time. I don't know. I don't work in transit. I don't know like how complicated it is to institute these things, but yeah, I think a more robust way of moving people was probably needed.
Yeah, that's an area where I would never even know how to handle it. So I'm not envious of the position that people have to do for planning these types of events when it comes to like logistics of moving people around. And there's things you just can't predict, like accidents or trains getting shut down for a night or something like that. It's just a
Yeah.
nightmare. I mean, I think back to the Super Bowl that we hosted this past year, and just navigating downtown New Orleans was not the easiest. It's not the easiest already. There's always constructions and potholes and everything already, but it was just even worse because everything was and they did still do a good job overall. I think if you were in town for that event, you were staying probably near the venues and could kind of get around pretty easy. But if you were a local coming from suburbs or from somewhere to go to the event, there wasn't really local trans you could take. You could do they had some things where you could do like remote parking and then take a shuttle bus where you ride the bus there. But still,
Right.
you got to get to the actual like convention center and stuff. So I, again, don't envy that at all, but I do remember from our episode, Sachiko-san did say, hey, come out early. Don't wait till the last minute. Like that was one thing she
She
kind of really,
did.
yeah, I remember her hammering that in, like, don't wait till the end, come early because there's going to be a lot of people, try to catch it before it finishes. So I think they knew that was going to happen. Like you said, they kind of planned for that because that's what people do, procrastination by nature, right? Or at least that's me. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I guess the lottery thing too, I think is that big deterrent, but that's just Japan loves their lotteries for tickets and events. So
I was about to say that because I was like, I don't know if that happened in Dubai or was going to happen or whatever. So it's like a lot of things, it was probably like a Japan-esque kind of rules. Like it's their culture. They're used to doing things that kind of way. Lottery, reservations, that's like a big thing in Japan. You can ask my friend who had diehard hopes in going to the Kirby Cafe, and little did he know you need a reservation for that. So, like, it's a very reservation kind of country. So, I'm sure they implemented that kind of stuff because it was in Japan. Whereas maybe if it was in America, it probably wouldn't have had that because we love to procrastinate on
yeah, well, I think
everything.
it's just the people who are planning it are local, and that's what they're
Yeah.
used to. They know it
Yeah.
works for their system and everything. So everyone, but it's good that they adapted.
Oh, yeah, no, for
Maybe
sure.
took a month or two, but adapting is important. So let's look beyond the expo for a second. How did you spend your free time? So you worked the morning shift or the evening shift, but in like maybe your free time between shifts or in the weekends, what did you do during that time? Did you get to travel outside of Osaka or Kansai and see stuff? Did you have a lot of like kind of longer breaks, or was it your days off were not steady? It was kind of like a Monday this week, a Tuesday the next week or something like that.
So we had a 4 days on, 2 days off kind of rotating schedule. And for each month, we would be with the same group. And so let's say Bridget was on my shift for April, maybe May when the shifts change and they kind of rotate or do like a little randomizer system for which ambassadors would be on that shift. Bridget might not have been on my shift. So you kind of like whoever is on your shift, you can kind of go out with them on your off days because you'll have the same off days as them. So I did a lot of traveling outside of Osaka. Bridget actually more than me, which she'll tell you about shortly. But I did a lot of day trips because it was pretty easy with the trains, and we could like shift swap. It was just a little difficult to do. So I did do a few overnight trips, but with shift swapping, it was a little easier to just do like a weekend trip instead of like 4 days or something. So yeah, I really loved going on trips with my fellow youth ambassadors, and because of the shift rotation system, even though I did kind of have like some of my core best friends, I feel like I got a good chance to travel with a lot of different people that I might not have otherwise traveled with. I went to some really cool places. I went to like Kinosaki Onsen. I went to Koyasan, but my absolute favorite trip was I took an overnight ferry from Osaka to Beppu, And we got on the ferry, and there's like an onsen on the ferry and a buffet and all this stuff. And it was awesome to just like drink a beer in the tub with your friends or like go do the buffet. And we got an Airbnb in Beppu and, did a bunch of onsens and nature stuff. And there was these beautiful green rolling hills, and we just took pictures and hung out. And it was a great bonding experience. So I got to do those kinds of trips with so many different people, and they made it pretty easy to travel across Japan and other things. So yeah, I think pretty much every youth ambassador did at least one trip or two outside of Expo. But Bridget can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, so the schedule was like, as Leah said, generally you had 2 consecutive days off per week. So we should have told about you guys about this earlier. Leah was the spring cohort, which meant she was participating March through July, and then I was there the whole time, all 6 months. And full term YA's got 5 days of vacation. So we had that in addition to any shift swapping that we did. And my little mission while I was in Osaka was to try to see as many prefectures as possible. When I was living in Hokkaido, like most of my travel was confined to like Tohoku and Hokkaido, just because it's kind of difficult to get anywhere else. So I just basically like everything west of Osaka, I tried to see. I had a really wonderful time doing this solo trip where I rented a car in Fukuoka and basically did a circuit around Kyushu. It was awesome. So beautiful. I love Kyushu. And like Leah said, the opportunities to go traveling with other youth ambassadors were great. My best memory was my friends and I went to Wakayama for the 4th of July. We did a rafting trip, and we got to go on this log raft down the river on the border between like Wakayama, Mie, and Nara. And it was just so incredible. I think back on it really fondly. And it was really easy to go out and explore if you wanted to explore. And I certainly did. I'm really grateful for the ability to like see that side of Japan and get to interact with so many different people from different prefectures.
Man, that sounds so awesome. Like
I know,
I'm jealous.
right?
I'm like, oh man, I wish I was like didn't have. Well, no, I don't want to say that.
Younger with less
I'm gonna
responsibilities.
cut that part out. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, it reminds me of Jet in that regard. Like you'd have these like little pockets of holidays and stuff, and you'd be able to do some really cool trips. So that's awesome that you guys had that opportunity to really get some exploring in and see some spots like the Beppu overnight ferry.
Yeah, that sounds
cool.
awesome because I always wanted to go to Beppu, and I didn't even know there was a ferry from Osaka to Beppu, and now I do. So I'm like, opportunity is there.
So did you do Shikoku any, Bridget, when you were?
I did.
You did.
My boyfriend visited. We rented a car outside of Kobe, and we basically drove like Awaji, another circuit trip around Shikoku. We saw like everything we wanted to see. It was amazing.
Nice. That's great.
There were also a lot of cool events that were happening. Like I got to go see the Formula One race, which is awesome. We did a little road trip. Like we rented a car and we drove to Mie to Suzuka where the race was happening. Some people went to music festivals and things like that, like Summer Sonic. I didn't get to go to that. But also sometimes like sister cities would put on little events that we could do. Like there was like a knife making and knife sharpening class that a lot of YAs did. I did this like Wakayama kind of like tourism promotional thing, and I tried a bunch of foods and things like that. So there were a lot of cool like YA only activities you could do that sister cities did a good job at putting on. So there's a lot of little things you could do outside of Expo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a benefit of having them run your guys' program as opposed to, what was it, Global Ties or somebody else. Like, I guess each one, whoever's running the youth ambassador program, kind of wants to provide them some kind of experience. So sister cities can tap in easily to the 1 million bajillion sister city relationship that Japan has. So
I mean, this just sounds like a really amazing opportunity. I know y'all probably know this, but like this probably has changed y'all's lives forever. It just sounds like something. It reminds me of like the excitement I had when I like studied abroad, kind of thing. Like I knew it was going to be life changing. And speaking of that, in that sense, now that the expo is sadly over and it's done, and you've had this experience behind you now, but it's going to live on forever, and you're going to have all these amazing stories for the rest of your life, and you're going to keep on telling them to different people, and you're going to have people respond, "Oh, you've already told me that." And you'll be like, "Oops." But Now, do you have plans to move forward with any kind of Japan-related work or maybe further study in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping to keep Japan in my life in some capacity forever, hopefully. I studied Japanese in college, and I could totally see myself going back to Japan to maybe go to grad school at some point. And I'm currently interning with the Japan America Society here in Chicago. And that's been a really great opportunity to get involved in the Japanese American community here and also keep up my Japanese skills a little bit when I go into the office. But yeah, I mean, my long-term goal is to work in US Japan relations. So yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be open to going back, working, studying in some capacity.
Yeah, I definitely there's a piece of me that always has a little bit of my heart in Japan. I feel like I always have a home there, not only because I have friends there, but because of my experiences with not only Expo, but the US Japan Council and other things. I'm still a member, like I'm still a Tomodachi alumni, and no matter where I go, I want to be involved with their local Japan society or Japanese community and things like that. So I feel like I'll always have a piece of me there. And I'd like to get involved with work there eventually, whether it's diplomacy or economic related work. So even if it's not right now in my current plans, I probably in the future, I'd like to have something Japan oriented yet again.
And I know you were recently selected as a fellow, right, for something Japan related.
Yeah, I'm actually, I can't believe I forgot to mention this one, but I'm currently a fellow with the Silicon Valley Japan platform. I'm a Dan Okimoto Rising Innovators Fellow. So, in late October, early November, I actually went back to Japan, this time Tokyo, not Osaka, for the Japan leg of the fellowship, where we learned a lot about technological innovation within Japan and kind of Japanese startup culture and how the US can collaborate with that. And then in the spring, we'll have the US portion, which will be split between Boston and San Francisco. So yeah, once I'm a fellow alumni, they've kind of alluded to the fact that each year they want us to help the new fellows with their Japan experience and stuff like that. So if I remain part of this program as well, that'll be another added thing to my list of Japan organizations that I'm involved with. So yeah, I am doing that actively right now.
Well, congratulations on that. That's
Thank you.
incredible. Seems like both of you guys are super involved. And if you ever come back to New Orleans and visit, whether it's visiting family or just coming to hang out, feel free to reach out to us, our little small Japan community over here. But we also are hosting the National Japan America Societies Convention this August. So it's another opportunity to connect, network, and all that fun stuff, which I think both of you guys seem very well adept to. You enjoy that kind of thing. So if you are in town or involved with your wherever Japan America Society, wherever you're located, obviously Chicago, wherever you may be at that time, keep that in mind and see if you're get involved. Maybe you can pull on up to New Orleans in August when it's great weather. I swear, it's gonna feel just like Osaka in the summer.
For sure.
If you really want to relive that part of the experience, we got you covered.
I've lived it for so long.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Well, I think that's all we.
So much.
Yeah, that's all we got going on question wise for you guys. But again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences with us. I think that I mentioned this to a few people that I know that are in their 20s, and I was like, hey, look, this sounds really dope. You guys should absolutely look into this. And I don't know if they did. I don't know. But whenever there's those kind of opportunities, whether it's study abroad, JET, or something like this, where you have an opportunity to go live abroad for a short period of time, take it. It's one of those things where it can really change your life, change the trajectory of your life. Just open your mind to new things because you meet so many different people from all walks of life. So congrats to you guys for getting selected, for living this great experience, and for moving forward with your Japan lives, going beyond this. So it's really incredible.
Thank you for having us. It's been awesome.
Yeah,
Loved answering these questions.
Yeah, and Leah, thank you for reaching out to me on LinkedIn and mentioning this because I had no idea who was going to be. And Jen and I talked about doing something about a bookend to the expo, but we didn't know how. We didn't know anybody, but you just kind of helped us out there without even knowing.
Great, glad to have been a help, and I'm glad I met y'all at the Japan Fest.
Yeah, likewise.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It was really nice to get to talk. And Lea, thank you for being the link between everyone here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bridget, for being in New Orleans at the time.
Oh yeah, just pure coincidence.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And that's a wrap on our special bonus episode, putting the perfect bow on our Expo 2025 audio journey. Thank you so much for listening, and a huge thank you to Lea Disimone and Bridget McCarthy for joining us for this episode and sharing their Expo 2025 Youth Ambassador experiences. Stay tuned. In the coming weeks, we have another bonus episode coming out, this time following up with another Season 6 guest, Dan Orlowitz, previewing the upcoming World Cup and what it means for Japan. You won't want to miss it. And of course, stick around because Season 7 is around the corner, coming out this summer. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our past episodes, don't forget to follow, rate, and review our show. Every single one of those 5-star ratings and reviews helps other listeners discover Krewe Japan Podcast and join our global crew. Or hey, maybe just tell a friend about us. That works too. Any and all support is incredibly appreciated. Did you end up going to the Expo? Share those experiences with us on social media: Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X. Just search Krewe Japan Podcast to stay in the loop with future episodes, upcoming Japan Society events, and other Japan-related content. That's KREWEOFJAPAN, Krewe of Japan. Or maybe you just want to reach out to us directly. That's cool. Send us an email at kreweofjapanpodcast@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. But that's it for today. Until next time. Looking to start your own podcast and don't know what platform to use? Tell me about it. When we started the Krewe Japan Podcast, we tried a bunch of the big name recording platforms, but always came back to the one we're still currently using to this day, Zencastr. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. In addition to its high audio and video quality for podcast production, Zencastr provides a full suite of production tools to record, produce, and publish studio quality content from the comfort of your home. Just log in through your browser and start recording. It's that simple. For us, we simply send out links to our guests and they join the lobby. But before you know it, it's all done and you have your studio quality audio and up to 4K video right there ready for you right when you finish. The best part is having their multi-layered backups to ensure that your recordings are in the highest quality, regardless of anyone's internet connection stability. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcasts in one place and distribute to all the major destinations. It's really that easy. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code Krewe of Japan, KREWEOFJAPAN, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's your time to share your story.